folks, it's Joe with Black Box Silver and Bronze, and I've got an amazing comic haul to share with you from New Jersey and Philadelphia. Let's check them out. Hey, comic addicts, I hope you had a nice 4th of July. I went up to New Jersey to see my parents and my sister for the 4th of July weekend. And while I was up there, I was able to find some cool stuff. On the way back, I visited a friend and colleague in Philadelphia. I had some time to kill, so I hit a couple of comic stores in Philadelphia, and I got some great stuff. So you're going to see some really, really interesting things that you just don't see anywhere else right here. Stick around to the end. So the first thing I found was in New Jersey on Long Beach Island, where my parents have a summer home. There's an antique store called Ship Bottom Antiques. And I found this little book, children's book, called Oil from 1940. It was published by Whitman, and it's got the same front and back cover. And it looks kind of like a Dick and Jane type of learn to read book, but it's not. It is for children, but it's full on reading. It's for older children, and it tells the story of oil, where it comes from, how it's produced, its uses, and it's a very interesting book. Like I said, it was from 1940. Originally belonged to Betty Johnson, who lived at 1336 Stanley Street in New Britain, Connecticut. So that's pretty cool. And some interesting facts that were in this book. I read it. A couple of interesting facts jumped out at me was that this was 1940, and in 1940, the United States produced half of all the oil in the world. And you compare that with today and us trying to become energy independent. It's very interesting. Also in there, it talked about the fear of oil running out. But even in 1940, they knew about oil shale. And they also talked about that they could squeeze oil out of coal, and that from the coal that we have in the United States, we could make enough oil to last for 2,000 years, as well as continuing to use the coal for all the things we already use coal for. So that was pretty interesting. And then the other thing that's interesting is it tells about all the products that come from petroleum. And when you think of all the products that come from petroleum, which is not just the gas that goes into our cars, if we shut down and said, hey, we're not going to use oil anymore, there are a lot of products that we wouldn't be using anymore, not just gas in our cars. So that was pretty interesting. When I left New Jersey, I was going to visit a friend in Philadelphia. She's the head of school at an all-girls school there and used to work here with me. And so I had several hours to kill until I could see her. And I looked up, I found 2 comic stores. So one of the ones I went to in Philadelphia, in downtown Philadelphia, was called Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex. And I only walked away. They had some nice comics there. They had like an early Aquaman, maybe issue 3 or 4, something like that. But it was pretty pricey. It was like $300. But I did find, digging in the back issue bins, I found this issue of Batman that I've been looking for a while. I just really like this cover. So this is Batman number 148, and it's from June of 1962. And that's a Sheldon Moldoff Joker cover. I love the colors on here, and really I love the way that Joker is depicted there. So that was the one comic I got from that store. The next store I went to was called Fat Jack's Comic Crypt. It is in downtown Philly. And so it took a while to find some parking, but if you can find some parking, it is really worth it going to this store. I searched it up online. I saw an article. They almost went out of business a couple of years ago because of the pandemic and everything, but they're still there. And I walked in. and there was a nice gentleman there, perhaps the owner. I told him this was my first time there, and he's like, "Well, what are you looking for?" So, well, kind of like wall books, old Golden Age, Silver Age. He said they had just been to a convention and sold most of that stuff. I said, "Well, what about any back issues like old Archies?" So he said, "Come look in this area." He showed me where the Archies were, and so they have this big area in the back, rows and rows of Marvel and DC comics, and they have the smaller area, which is just all the other stuff. And it was exactly what I was looking for. So I spent about an hour and a half digging through there. I found a bunch of stuff. And then he also said that they had just gotten in an Archie collection. They hadn't priced it yet. But he said, if you want, I'll bring the box out. You could dig through it. And if you find anything, we can price it. So I dug through it and I found two issues, brought them up to him, let him price. I kept digging. And then I got this huge stack of books. So it was a great store. And for me, it was so great because I hit the jackpot on Spire Christian comics, which I like to collect, promo comics, which I like to collect, unusual comics, which I like to collect, and Golden Age comics. So they had everything I was looking for. So let's get into it. So let me show you the Spire comics that I got first. So I got a nice stack of Spire comics. They had others, I already had them. So this is called Barney Bear, and it's the Kitty Christian comics. So this issue is called Home Plate. They've got some really cute artwork on it. And I found another Barney Bear, which was on my list, out of the woods. Barney Bear Out of the Woods. It's a tent meeting. Love that tent, that red and white circus-looking tent. I have a couple of other issues of Barney Bear. Here's one called Through the Gates of Splendor. And there's some nice art in here where there's a big splash page in here where they're finding this tribe. I think it's in South America. And, they're trying to do missionary work to this tribe. And they had this big splash page there. I thought it was really cool. And it's cool how the women are topless. It's, like a National Geographic type thing, but the way that they were posed with their arms covering their tops, it was done very well for kids. And then here's Paul, Close Encounter of a Real Kind. Adventures with the Brothers. This one's really cool. The Cult Escape. So there's two or three issues in this series, Adventure with the Brothers. And this one's The Cult Escape. Got a cool underwater cover. And then this one was the one I was really excited to get because I specifically remember my father giving me this one when I was a kid. Almost. This is a variant of it. But this is the one to me that has been the hardest to find. It's Tom Landry and the Dallas Cowboys. My father was a football player in high school, quarterback, captain of the team, big athlete, big time athlete, played all the sports. He was a teacher. He was a basketball coach, took his team to the championships for several years. And in our house, the football games were on all the time. The baseball games were on all the time, basketball games. So he was a big sports guy, big athlete, loved sports. And I remember him purchasing for me this comic book. Now, not exactly this issue because there's three variants. This is the newest of the three, but there was like a 35-cent and a 39-cent variant, and they're blue. So it's not all this green. It's more blue on the cover. That's the one that he got me. So I was really excited. I've been looking for this one for quite a while. And the Spire Christian comics, they're here, they're there. You get one here, you get one there, but there's three of them which are really tough to get. I have all three now that I have that Tom Landry. It's the Tom Landry one. I just don't see that. It goes a little more in cost. Johnny Cash, which I did get a copy of that, and then Hansi, the girl who loved the swastika. Those three are the ones that really stand out. If you look for them, you could pretty much find the rest of them just here and there. So that was the Spire. I also got a bunch of promo comics. A lot of promo comics I've never seen before, and a lot of promo comics I've known of, but I haven't had the opportunity to buy until here. So it was really great. The first one is this one. It's called The Guiding Hand, and I'm sure you've probably never seen this before. If anyone has seen this, put it in the comments. This one surprised me. This is from 1989. It was put out by the American Indian Healthcare Association, and it was a educational um, comic book about AIDS. This one I've known of, I've never seen before, but it's called The Little Trees That Went to School. This is from 1952, and it was put out by the International Paper Company. And it tells about like what trees are good for and how to, farm them, how to grow them. It's very interesting. And what's really cool about this particular issue that I got, if you look here on the back, there's this badge that you could send away to get, right? And as I was paging through this, inside are two of these printouts that says, we're out of those badges. Don't ask for them anymore. So I thought that was really cool. It's a little added history that goes with this copy of the book. This one's called Rex Morgan, MD, Talks About Your Unborn Child. And I've never seen this one before. And this really surprised me very much because when I saw this, I really felt like this was maybe from the 50s. It has that feel of other promo comics I have that are from the 50s. The artwork, it's all on this newsprint, the fading of the color, the tanning of it and everything. I thought this maybe might be from the 50s, but when I looked it up, it surprised the heck out of me. It's from 1980. And so it was put out by the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board. And the story is about warning you about not drinking alcohol when you're pregnant. So a tie into the Liquor Control Board. Now, this one I have seen before, or I've known of it. I've never seen it before. I've been looking for it. And this is Operation Survival. And this one is from 1957. And that's where I thought that Rex Morgan was about this time period because it feels very similar to these. But this is Al Cap, and there's Little Abner up there. And this is about civil defense. Here's a story about civil defense. Down here, you got this little civil defense mascot down there. And it tells you about learning warning signals and know your civil defense plan, first aid. Very cool. The boat on here is really cool. It's a very futuristic looking boat. Looks like a 1950s kind of spaceship. This one I've never seen before. I've seen other versions of this, and it's Billy and Betty, Pilot Jim, and Miss Sunbeam in Adventures in Space. And so I have seen other Miss Sunbeam comics. There are several Miss Sunbeam comics. I've never seen this one, which is The Adventures in Space. And let's see, this is from 1955, and it's a promo comic about Sunbeam bread. Sticking with the promo comics, I found a copy of Yarns of the Yellowstone, and it looks a lot older than it is. It's from 1972, and it's all about Yellowstone National Park. Got a nice back cover that shows one of the things that Yellowstone is most known for is Old Faithful. I went and saw this when I was about 22, no, maybe 21 years old. When I was the summer between my junior and senior year of college, I drove across the United States and I went here and I saw Old Faithful. And right now, just a few days ago, my son, who recently graduated, is driving across the United States and he went and saw Old Faithful. And then this is one of the promo comics that I found in that box of the recent collection they bought. And it's got this guy's name on it. There's a stamp on it. Can you see it here? It's Edward Solomon. So all the comics in this box had Edward Solomon stamped on it. And this one is just called Comics. And this is actually a Dennis the Menace comic inside. And what they did with some of those unused comics, different organizations, like this one is the Ben Weinstein or Weinstein and Sons, Compliments of Ben Weinstein and Sons, Pittsburgh's foremost kosher style restaurant for over 40 years. And so shoe stores, restaurants would get these unused comics, they'd rip the cover off and they put their own cover on. And so you can see it's actually a Dennis the Menace comic inside, and there's an advertisement on the back. And so these are really unusual. They're hard to know about these. I don't know if there's a publication that covers these types of promo comics, but just randomly you find them. I found one recently I gave to Metaraj. It was like Bluebird shoes or something like that. And this is the last promo comic I found at the store. I'm waiting. I haven't been able to rebag it yet because I ran out of bags and boards, and I have an order. They're coming in sometime this week from Gerber. But I found this one called Santa's Surprise. And this is a little Christmas comic book and activity book. And it was given by Strawbridge and Clothier, which is a department store. This is from 1954, and it is well loved. So those are my Spire and promo comics. And then I just found, like I said, some unusual stuff. So this next stack of books is something that's pretty cool that I never heard of before in my life, but it's called Mendy and the Golem. And it's that ran from 1981 to 1984. This is issue number 4. And so the kind of the way it looked, the way it presented itself on the covers changed as it proceeded. So like issues 1 and 2 didn't look quite like this. It was just a picture of this kid, Mendy Klein, on the cover. And then with issue 3, it changed to this kind of photo frame look. And then later it changed again. I'll show you that in a few. So this is issue number 4. And so Mendy and the Golem was a story about Jewish heritage. And this kid, Mendy Klein, finds this golem in the synagogue, I think. And they go on, and the golem's name is Sholem, S-H-O-L-E-M. And they go out on these different adventures, and there's always morals to the story that are based on Jewish texts. So it was, informative for Orthodox Jewish children to learn about their religion. And so I found several issues of these. I just love finding cool stuff like this, stuff I never knew about. And, that's so cool. The other thing is, I'm pretty sure I don't speak Jewish or Hebrew, I should say. I don't speak Hebrew, but I've done a lot of crossword puzzles, and a lot of time in the crossword puzzles, they ask for answers for the months, the names of the months in Hebrew. So I'm pretty sure that these up here where it says ADAR and NISSAN are 2 months. So if this came out like 6 times a year, just like in the old Golden Age comics, you'd get one that would say January, February, March, April, May, June. That's what those words mean up there. I'm pretty sure. I meant to double check that before I recorded this, and I didn't. But if anyone knows, you could chime in. So I got issue 4, and then for issue think it was issue number 7 or 8. It changed again, and then it put this red bar across the top that says the world's only kosher comic book. So I thought that was really cool. So this is issue number 10. And I also found issue number 11 and issue number 12. And lastly, the last one I found was issue number 13. And as I said, this ran for 19 issues. So I just got a handful of them. Never seen these, never heard of these before. And you could see up there, there's some different words up there. So I do suspect that those are the months. What do you think about those? Have any of you ever heard of those comics before? I'm really curious because to me, blew my mind. And when I went up to buy this stack of comics, I asked the guy, I said, you think he had a big stack? I said, you think you could give me a discount on this? And he looked through and he's like, these comics, nobody ever buys these comics. I'll give you a discount. So I found an issue of Treasure Chest of Fun and Fact. This is volume 19, number 5. And I gravitated to this one because of this cover, because what it says here, Bishop Walsh, Red Victim. And so if you've watched my channel, you know that I really like reading about anti-communist Cold War type stories. And so this is a story about this Bishop Walsh. And I was really excited to read this. So this was the first one in the pile. When I got home, I opened it up and read it. And there is a story about Bishop Walsh. Now, he was condemned as a spy in China, in Shanghai, and he wasn't allowed to attend his own trial. And that's really all I know about him. So the problem is that the story takes place in this volume, volume 19, from issue 1 through 10. So this is issue number 5. So I only got a small part of the story. He just showed up in China, started the mission, started doing mass with the locals, and that's all I know. So I don't know what happened before, and I don't know, when he was arrested and what happened after. But I got to look for those other issues now. This happens to me all the time. I find a book, I read it, and there's more to the story. Okay, this is pretty cool. This is from AC Collectible Classics, and they reprinted some Golden Age stuff. So here is Don Winslow Troubleshooter. This is from 1991. And you could see it says Mideast issue, and up here it says the original Saddam Smasher. So they were taking, riding on top of the fact that the Gulf War was happening, and so they reprinted some of these issues of Don Winslow that took place in the Mideast. And one of my favorite comics, T-Man, that has stories taking place in the Mideast as well. So something very interesting. I love that cover, but something that's very interesting about this is the cover from Don Winslow from when it was Fawcett comic, issue number 56, but they added the girl here. So I'm going to drop in the original cover here, and you can see how it's the same cover, but they dropped in the girl. So that was really cool. And this reprints stories from issue 56 and issue 58 of Don Winslow. And there's another story from another comic in there as well. Something else really cool, like you wouldn't know about this. This is Doc Weird's Thrill Book. And this is issue number 1. And this also reprints comics. So this reprints the Demon of Destruction plus Vic Torrey and his flying saucer. And there's a third story in here. But I just want to talk about the first one, the Demon of Destruction. Okay. This comic book is from 1987. This cover is by Frank Frazetta, and it is signed right along the edge there. Okay. That's a Frank Frazetta cover. So that's pretty cool. And then the Demon of Destruction is a story that is reprinted from Forbidden Worlds #1. Here's the cover. And that story is the Frank Frazetta art in that story as well. So pretty cool. Something else I found out about this comic is that it has two variants to it, and the variant is the silver bar here. So I think maybe the first print, maybe this is the second print, I don't know, but there's a silver bar here, and on the other one, no silver bar. This is the Iron Corporal. It's issue number 23. It's the first issue of the series titled The Iron Corporal. This is from October of 1985. It ran 3 issues, so 23, 24, and 25. But this isn't the first appearance of Iron Corporal. Iron Corporal first appears in Army War Heroes number 22. Same cover, colored differently. And this is the first appearance and origin of the Iron Corporal. So this one starts with number 23, maybe because he first appeared in Army War Heroes number 22, it jumped to 23, or maybe this continued. Charlton had this habit of like changing the title and just continuing the number. So I haven't figured that out yet. Now, I'm getting to some really good books here, so I hope you've stuck around. This is one of the comics that I dug out of the box, which was the Edward Solomon collection. And this is Archie Annual 14. And this is from 1963. And so I saw this in there. You can see better on here the Edward Solomon stamp there. All of the comics in the box had that stamp on it. But I pulled this one out, as well as that promo comic with the white cover, the Dennis the Menace. And he priced these while I continued looking. And I was worried because I looked this up on My Comic Shop and eBay to kind of get a sense of what it went for. And there were no copies available on My Comic Shop. eBay had 2 copies about this condition, like $100 a piece. So I was like, if he comes back with something like that, he can put it back in the box. I was kind of worried about that. But after he graded it, and I asked him how much you're getting on that, it said $8. I was like, oh, I'll take it. And then he wound up giving me 20% off of that. So I really like this cover, blondes versus brunettes, and that's the artwork of Harry Lucy. I really liked his style of the Good Girls, Harry Lucy. And it's very dirty. So I did use an eraser and clean all the whites. Try to do a little yellow on the yellow, but it felt like I was lifting color, so I just left that alone. But it made a big difference just cleaning the dirt off the whites. And this is one of those square bound issues. So they have notoriously, they like peel away from the binding, and this one does as well. But the main image looks pretty darn good. I had so much fun digging through this area. I couldn't believe all the stuff that I found in there, because when I asked him for like Golden Age, he's like, oh, it's all gone. It's all gone. But I found tons of it, and I left tons behind. But I snagged this one, New Funnies number 101. This is from July of 1945. You may have seen me show this before, because I did find a copy earlier, but this one's in much better shape. And I like to get these ones that have the war bonds or the war loans or the war letters on it. So that's going to replace the one that I have up on the wall up there. This one, never heard of it before, but it was like $6 Golden Age, 10-cent Golden Age, Haphazard Comics. Just the image looks fun. It's colorful. The kid's driving his jalopy and daydreaming of that beautiful girl, and winds up going into the stream. And it was like $6, and then I wound up getting 20% off on it. So when I see things like this, I figure let me preserve them. and put them in my collection, or maybe, there's a friend of mine that's looking for something like that. We could wind up doing a trade. Here's another one, same thing. A1 Comics, number 6 from 1946. Haphazard was from April of 46. This is also from 1946. And this reprints newspaper comics, but cute cover, very nice colors, 1946, $10 or less. Can't leave it behind. A few really good ones to go. So I found this, True Comics number 9. Now, this one I really liked for several reasons. One, it was a great deal on a Golden Age comic. The colors are fantastic. It's very nice presenting. And the topics that are in here. So this is Admiral Stark. He was the chief of naval operations at one time. There was ships named after him. So that's very interesting to me because of my naval career. But here on the cover, we have a train. I love collecting covers with trains. But, you see here, what does it say? They stole a train. So that jumped out on me because just recently, when my son was visiting, we went here in Chattanooga to the national, or it's not national, but the Medal of Honor Heritage Museum, downtown Chattanooga. And they have a story in there about Andrews Raiders, and these guys from the Civil War who came down to the South to try to steal a Confederate train and take it north. And we also found out that there was a monument to them here in Chattanooga in the National Cemetery. So we went over there and checked that out. And then when my other son came, my older son, who's driving across country, I took him over there to see it as well. So just recently, I found out about these guys, the Andrews Raiders, and this is a story about it. So I had to grab that one. And these were just, I knew nothing about this. I'm digging through. I see these comics, and I'm like, these comics have got to be really scarce. They're just so unusual. And so I grabbed them. One wound up with the discount being 20, and one was less than 20. And this is issue number 1 and 2 of the John Hicks scrapbook. Now, they are in well-loved grade. This corner is torn off here. There's a tear here. The cover's detached. But this is the John Hicks scrapbook number 1. This is from 1937. And this is the John Hicks scrapbook number 2 from 1939, also cover detached. This one was less than 20. That first one was 20. And this is in the Gerber guide as an 8, and 10 is the scarcest. So 8 is super scarce. And I couldn't believe that these were sitting in those bins. You never know what you're going to find when you're digging around. So what is the John Hicks scrapbook? So John Hicks is like Ripley's Believe It or Not. So these are just, it's not a comic story per se. Each page, it's like a splash. It's splash after splash after splash. And each page is telling, some unusual thing like a Ripley's Believe It or Not. But these are pretty old and pretty scarce. And for that price, how can I not take them home? And the very last book I got, if you stuck around, this one is super cool. This is Grit Grady Comics. It's a one-shot. So it's Grit Grady Comics number 1. And it's called a Holyoke one-shot. It's from 1944. And when I brought this up to the counter and the guy was looking through, he's like, I can't believe there's still a Holyoke one-shot back there. So I guess they had more. But I couldn't believe this. I've never seen this before anywhere. Conventions, comic stores, online, anywhere. I've never seen it. And I'm just digging through and I'm pulling these things out. I'm like, what are these things doing in here? Why did nobody else ever take these things? Again, this was like, I think it was $25 and it was 20% off. I think I got it for $20 roughly. So to me, that's a steal. And so I'm going to put something up here that I found about these Hollyoaks that they basically printed these comics as one shots, and there's no indicia. So the speculation about when they, the years they were printed and actually who printed them, it's kind of a little bit of guesswork. They don't know if it's one company, which I think was called Helfin, Helfin, something like that, or whether it was Holyoke, that Holyoke got the printing plates from them and printed them, or Helfin did it. But they came out with these comics and they were just one shots. They were, one after the other. Um, so that's pretty cool. So Comic Addicts, that was my haul from Philly. I had to drive around to find spots, but I think it was worth it. And what do you think about these comics? I got some great Spire Christian comics. Do you like those? Do you collect those? A bunch of promo comics. I have a big promo comic collection. Uh, Mendy and the Golem. What? And these great Golden Age comics. Tell me what you think in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.